the NBA, with James Harden expected to wear a Houston Rockets uniform despite his ongoing demand to be traded. He did participate in training camp yesterday, and new head coach Stephen Silas says he will play in their preseason game tonight against the Spurs. According to our Adrian Wojnarowski and Ramona Shelburne, Harden has informed the team nothing's changed. He still wants out of Houston and is not interested in teaming up with the newly acquired John Wall. Stephen A. Smith coming back to discuss the Harden drama. But first, here is Silas on his conversation with James Harden before practice yesterday.
We had a good conversation, and I'm just going to leave it at that. You can ask him about his commitment and all that sort of thing. But we had a good conversation. He was locked in. He was asking good questions. He's bringing up good points. We had a good discussion. He'll play tomorrow, and we'll figure out the minutes tomorrow. As far as his commitment to what we're doing basketball-wise, he was right there. As far as the rumors and all the other stuff I can't speak to, really hasn't been that much of a distraction. I mean, it's been something that the media has been talking about quite a bit, and I've had to answer a lot of questions about. As far as our growth and our kind of pushing forward this season, we've kind of been right on pace, and now adding him and PJ to the mix just makes it better.
Stephen A. Smith back with us here on SportsCenter. We're 8 days away from the Rockets season opener against the Thunder. What should Houston do with the situation surrounding James Harden right now?
Well, ultimately, you've got to move him. He doesn't want to be there. You can't have your star, one of the elite scorers this game has ever seen, disgruntled and in your locker room on a night-in, night-out basis. We don't like it, especially when you got a guy like Stephen Silas as your new coach who waited 20 years as an African-American being an assistant coach before finally getting this job. But nevertheless, that's where James Harden stands. That's how he feels. Now, you don't want to move him for anything less than equitable compensation. That means numerous players and in all likelihood, numerous picks to go with it. And that's certainly what the Houston Rockets should be looking towards. What they shouldn't be thinking about is keeping him for the entire season. He does not want to be there. And if you have a superstar and he doesn't want to be there, and he makes that clear, if you end up keeping him against his will, what you've done is sent the message that this is how you're going to treat your stars, and that's going to make others reluctant to come to your franchise. Tillman Fertitta and the Houston Rockets know this, and they're going to have to act accordingly. They're going to have to find a way to get him up out of there.
Okay, now timing. With Giannis deciding to stay in Milwaukee today, now the rumors of the Harden trade and his future, those will ramp up. Where would be the best destination when it comes to an actual deal lining up on both sides?
Long term, I would tell you the Philadelphia 76ers, if you can get with Joel Embiid, Seth Curry, and some of the other parts that Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey has surrounded Joel Embiid with. But for the short term, I would tell you it's the Brooklyn Nets, because I believe right now, when you consider the moves that the Los Angeles Lakers have made in the offseason with Schrader and Gasol and Montrezl Harrell and others, I think that the Lakers are the clear prohibitive favorites and the only franchise that would have a chance of beating them in an NBA Finals is Harden joining KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn. If that doesn't happen, I will stand here right now and tell you no one in the NBA has a chance of knocking off the healthy Los Angeles Lakers squad led by LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It ain't happening. The only hope is for Harden to end up in Brooklyn and KD and Kyrie to have him with them. Other than that, we will be crowning the Lakers as champions again next summer.
My goodness, that would be a big three in Brooklyn. By the way, you mentioned all the Sixers players, but you did not mention Ben Simmons, so I imagine he would be involved in the trade. I'm just making sure, right?
Yes. He would have to go. Ideally, you would love him with Harden and Embiid, but you'd have to be boo-boo the fool to trade James Harden to Philadelphia and don't get Ben Simmons in return. That would be one of the most ignorant moves I've seen in quite some time if that would have happened.
We could all have some hope. Stephen A. Smith on James Harden as the NBA season's a week away.
To keep the two-time MVP in town. It seems like it worked. Hello, Stephen A. Smith from First Take. And we were thinking it's not often that a true NBA superstar stays in a small market. You can think back to maybe Tim Duncan 20 years ago. I mean, but that's exactly what Giannis did today, agreeing to this supermax with Milwaukee. What's your reaction?
Well, obviously, $44 million is average a year is a bit difficult to turn down, number one. But number two, and more importantly, I think we have to take into consideration the kind of background that he's had. Had a very impoverished background in Greece. He's been through a tremendous amount of adversity in his life, has overcome a lot of obstacles, and to find a home, albeit in a small marketplace like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, It just says a lot about his character. It says a lot about the things what things mean to him, what certain things mean to him in terms of family, chemistry, camaraderie, friendship, and all of those different things. That had a lot to do with it. And then give the Milwaukee Bucks as an organization credit. They may have blown the Bogdanovich deal by opening their mouths a bit prematurely, but Drew Holiday is a baller. Chris Middleton is not a scrub. He's a 20-point-per-game scorer and an elite third option. He just wasn't an elite second option. You take all of those things into consideration and you look at the Eastern Conference, although I look at Philadelphia and Brooklyn and Miami, the bottom line is with Giannis being who he is and the parts that they put around him, this is a championship contender. And if you're Giannis and you are a championship contender and you combine that with getting an average of over $44 million per year in salary, what the hell is there to say no to?
I get it, absolutely. But I think the key word that you used is family. We know Giannis is a different cat in that way, and that's how he's always felt about that Milwaukee Bucks organization. Yeah. And to your point about, okay, are they contenders? That's the big question next. You need results. So specifically on the court, Stephen A., what do you need to see from Giannis to get them to the NBA Finals?
Well, he has to develop a perimeter game. We understand he's unstoppable in the open court. He certainly can finish at the basket. We understand his size, agility, athleticism is right up there with anybody in the world. But he's really got to work on his perimeter shot because come postseason time, defenses get back. And when they get back, they force you into a half-court setting. And when you're under those conditions, you've got to be able to hit perimeter shots in order to be successful. And that's really what this comes down to. 2 years ago, they had a 2-0 lead. They were 2 games away from a trip to the NBA Finals before Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors won 4 straight. Last year, Miami shocked them and the world by beating them, primarily due to the play of the Tyler Heroes, Bam Adebayos, Duncan Robinsons, Jimmy Butlers. Miami can shoot the basketball, plus they can defend, and plus not enough credit is being given to the fact that Eric Spoelstra really threw a zone defense at them, which really discombobulated everything that Milwaukee wanted to do. So if you're Giannis, again, improve your perimeter shot, but the pieces around him, get them to maximize their potential. They wanted you to stay so bad, you stayed. Yeah. Now tell them to make sure that you don't regret it.
By the way, the last time the Bucks made it to the NBA Finals, 1974. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Big O, Oscar Robertson. That's when those guys were on the team a long time ago. We'll see if this changes things. Stephen A., thank you. More from you ahead.
No problem.
Still ahead, a next-level look at the NFL Game of the Year on Monday Night Football. Stand by for the top 10 must-see moments from the Ravens-Browns epic showdown. You don't want to miss it.
Still to come on SportsCenter. Before James Harden takes the floor in Houston's preseason action tonight, don't miss
23 p.m. Eastern time today. Two-time NBA MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo sent the tweet that rocked the NBA, announcing he is signing that Supermax deal to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. To see how he ends it there, the show goes on. Let's get it. And that is the perfect way to begin this edition of SportsCenter. Kevin and States with you till the top of the hour. As the biggest remaining question in the NBA was answered today by Giannis himself.
Yes, 6 days before the deadline and 1 week before the season starts, Giannis has decided to stay home and sign the biggest contract in NBA history. It's our breaking news as the reigning two-time MVP has agreed to a 5-year Supermax contract worth $228 million. Not bad for the 15th overall pick in the 2013 draft. Coming off a season where he joined Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon as the only players to win MVP. And
23 p.m. Eastern time today. Two-time NBA MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo sent the tweet that rocked the NBA, announcing he is signing that Supermax deal to stay with the Milwaukee Bucks. To see how he ends it there, the show goes on. Let's get it. And that is the perfect way to begin this edition of SportsCenter. Kevin and States with you till the top of the hour. As the biggest remaining question in the NBA was answered today by Giannis himself.
Yes, 6 days before the deadline and 1 week before the season starts, Giannis has decided to stay home and sign the biggest contract in NBA history. It's our breaking news as the reigning two-time MVP has agreed to a 5-year Supermax contract worth $228 million. Not bad for the 15th overall pick in the 2013 draft. Coming off a season where he joined Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon as the only players to win MVP and Defensive Player of the Year. But the top-seeded Bucks were bounced out by the Heat in the Eastern Conference semifinals, raising questions on whether the roster was good enough to convince him to stay in Milwaukee. And he can opt out after the 4th year. Scheduled to make $27.5 million this upcoming season. The Bucks, by the way, they acquired Drew Holiday this offseason to upgrade their backcourt. But a reported trade that would have brought in Bogdan Bogdanovic to Milwaukee, that fell apart. So there was some doubt with Giannis. Well, he has now decided to stay in Milwaukee, at least for the next 4 years. Let's bring in